What's up, guys? Checking in here today. It's late April 2021. Haven't done a video on my main bike in a while, which is my Kodiak 700. I believe it's a 2017. It's the SE model, special edition. And yeah, it's definitely been a pretty popular vehicle to review previously on my channel. If it's your first video you're watching, please go check out the older ones. And see where this machine started from and where it's at today, and problems, maintenance, accessories, etc. So again, it's a 2017 SE 700. To be exact, it's a 708. Currently the Kodiak 700s are now running a 686, which is actually an older motor that Yamaha retuned and now brought back because apparently they were having issues with this 708. I have not experienced any issues. The only thing I could even think of is a little bit of trouble on a cold morning firing. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 fires to actually kick over. And that's, again, in very extreme cases, below zero startups. But, nothing really worth noting at all. The power is great, and it's been pretty bulletproof in my opinion. So yeah, I've had this machine for about 4 years. Bought it brand new, coming out of an older Kodiak, actually only a year older, which I put 2,500 miles on and sold. This bike currently has 1,500 miles on it, which really is nothing for these things. I've had no notable problems that's really worth sharing. I blew a boot, which was user error. I was riding in a lot of snow, deep snow, and blew a boot. But besides that, there's been no issues. The rear gear has, had a couple series of unfortunate events, but again, user error where it would spit oil. But that, again, is totally on me. I will attach some clips of what this machine's been through and what kind of riding I do. It's definitely not a typical life for a Kodiak 700, I would argue. And I believe that it's fucking amazing. It's held up no problem. I've plowed with this. I've pulled trailers with this, very heavy trailers full of mulch or stone or firewood. That was in its younger days. Now it's really just a riding machine, and it doesn't do much else. It really just sits in the barn until we go on a trip. But for those who haven't seen my older videos, I'm just going to run you through accessories. And I would like to say that all these accessories have been put on with use in mind, not looks. It's really all about functionality and performance, and how this machine is going to do on the trail. So we'll start in the back. You can see that I have the Yamaha genuine box on here. That's not always on the bike. I like to put that on for longer trips. We just got back from Hatfield McCoy's down in Bluefield, West Virginia. And this thing was loaded with just about everything you can imagine in regards to recovery gear, food, water, emergency stuff, really, if we had to spend the night on the trail or we had to repair somebody's machine. And luckily, for the first time in a while, that none of that equipment had to come out, which is great. So we could just check this thing out real quick. This is the Yamaha genuine box. I've had this box for about 3-4 years, and you could tell that it's held up pretty mint. Got rubber T-handles, or whatever you want to call these, that just push down into place, which are really great. I've really never had a problem with this thing opening up. Currently in the process of I don't know, what do you call it? This box really does require, some adjusting, let's say. This is a bolt-on box, because Yamaha does still use steel racks, which I'm all for. They are certainly stronger. But unlike the Polaris and Can-Am lock and ride / link systems, this is a true bolt-on. So the box does legitimately bolt on to these arms that link it down into the frame here. And same goes for in here and here, and it has these little underneath brackets in there that essentially grab onto the rack here. And it's pretty sturdy. Right now I have everything loosened up because I'm, again, working on it. But this thing, if you get this thing dialed, it doesn't move. But again, it does require some adjustments. If you ride it hard like me, flying off jumps, water bars, like 40, 45 mile an hour days, you got to do some adjustments. So things that I've learned, unfortunately it's not dialed right now, but things that I've learned is that I actually usually cut pieces of rubber and lay it on the rack. This way it reduces vibration, it sits on better, and it doesn't rust. So this thing's only been on for a few weeks and it's done a couple 100 miles, but you can already see some rust in here. Pretty serious rust actually, between the hard plastic and the steel racks. I've painted these racks maybe 4 or 5 times. Kind of tell on the front one that's been painted. But it is what it is. It's something you have to do with these steel racks in terms of rusting. It just is what it is. Not something I'm complaining about. It's just something to be aware of. So laying that rubber or felt, I've done both, in between the hard plastic and the steel rack is definitely something worth doing. Along with that, I have done some bigger washers, some spacers, and I've really just tried to figure out what's going to dampen the shock of the box the most, especially in those extreme riding conditions. But if you do those little tricks and get this thing dialed, it's really the best box I've ever had. It's completely waterproof. I mean, completely waterproof. It's got a hole for a lock in the middle if you're doing some open bed trailering. I mean, it's just so great. It's got a drain in it. Right now it's a little wet. I just washed it out from the trip. I got to clean this up, but it's just an unbelievable box. I mean, you could tell the seal is just fantastic. Big top. It's so great. It's really an impressive box, truthfully. You also could do a lot of customization with this. This is a Rotopax T-handle up here. I do run that 2.5 gallon gas can up here, which is great. I have had some issues with weight. If this box is fully loaded with gear and I have that 2.5 gallon pail on top, it is a little heavy. So at times I actually just winch the 2.5 gallon pail to the front rack and kind of evens it out. But it is nice to have this T-handle back here if I do want to do that, or if it's empty, obviously it's no problem. But that's great. I've also done some cube lights on the back here to light up the back of the trail, which is great. This is actually meant for a flagpole, but it does work great for a pod light. I've been running the Rough Country Black Series cube lights, which are great. No complaints there. So that's the box. 10 out of 10 recommend. Just have some patience if you're riding these machines hard, which again, I suspect you aren't if you're buying a Kodiak 700. But if you are, consider that felt or that rubber application and get this thing really dialed in. So going down, stock suspension. I will attach some clips here of me abusing the fuck out of this machine. But these are the stock shocks. About 1,500 miles on these shocks. They're about ready to get blown out. I'm probably just going to put 4 new OEM shocks on here the next couple weeks. 2-inch receiver, which is fantastic. Again, I used to do some towing with this. I got a Fox hitch cover in here that just slides right in. It's just nice to be able to throw a regular hitch in there if you have to and not have to worry about buying a thinner sleeve or whatever. Got ricochet armor, A-arm guards here in the back, which are totally 100% worth the money. Really, I would never not put these things on at any bike that I own, especially again, going back to just the abuse that we put our machines through. It's definitely worth having that extra protection. That being said, I have not done the full underbody in steel, and you can tell that I'm missing this rear plate here because it flew off, just, off of a hard hit. So that needs to be addressed, whether I go with the stock plastic or, again, I buy a ricochet. I believe they're aluminum, actually. I take back that steel comment. They're aluminum for the underbody. So also back here, I have Tusk TUSK, which is a Rocky Mountain ATV MC brand. It's like their store brand. I have 2-inch spacers in there. It's just nice to have this extra width in terms of power sliding around turns and just how the machine handles. So that's front and rear, 2-inch spacers from Tusk TUSK. So that's the rear end of the bike. Tires, got a 26 by 11 through 12 GBC Dirt Commander Greenball Company. Best tire on the market, in my opinion. I'm super biased. This is my second set of these on this bike. They do so well. They do so well in all conditions. I've never had a flat, knock on wood. They hook up so well in two-wheel drive. I have nothing bad to say about these. They're phenomenal. So again, that's the GBC Dirt Commander. The rears are 26 by 11 through 12. The fronts are 26 by 9 through 12. Considered running a square setup, but went this route, and I'm super happy with it. Sitting in there is a 12-inch ITP beadlock. Not sure the model. You guys probably know. I believe it's an SS something. Again, no complaints there. It's nice to be able to have that beadlock that I could run if this tire were to go flat, which is great. And it's a really good looking setup, really clean. And the ground clearance is pretty exceptional with the 26-inch bump up in the tires. To accommodate the extra power needed for the 26-inch, and some of you guys may argue that you don't need the power, but I would argue that you do. I did do some EPI clutch components in the clutching. I did not go for the clutch kit. I just pulled some springs and some bearings out of that clutch kit, talking with the EPI guys, and got this thing really dialed in. The power engagement off the line is much better than stock, exceptionally better. And again, it's the second time I've done this to a Kodiak, and I would never, ever, ever go back. And again, you don't really need to spend the money on the whole clutch kit per se. I would give those guys at EPI a call and just walk through what you're looking for, the elevation that you're at, the type of oil that you run, the viscosity. They call themselves the clutch guys. They really are. They know what they're doing. So they'll get you hooked up there. Again, here's that front Dirt Commander with the ITP wheel. Looks really good on this bike. Coming to the front, I know the glare is kind of weird in this barn right now, but I got MSR wraparound handguards with the Bark Buster attachment. I would never not run these on a bike. It's just such a game changer in terms of hard riding, security. God forbid you were to roll the bike, bushwhacking, a number of things. These things have saved my hands many times, and they're still rock solid. Would never go back, honestly. Plus, it looks super trick. Jumping onto the bike here in the cockpit, you can see that I went with the ROK Speed FX screen remount and handlebars and risers, etc. So it does relocate the screen, which is a little unfortunate in terms of the storage box. But you can still get in there, no problem. This is a really great setup. These spider grips are also from ROK's, which is great. I don't think they're ROK's branded, but they sell them on their website. They've been super happy with them. So that's that setup here. Let's see, winch button here. Really dialed handlebar setup. Super happy with it. Quick side note, this is a great little storage compartment. If you've been to Hatfield McCoy's, you know you're constantly pulling out your maps. It's possibly the best storage compartment in the game, which is great. One thing I'll note is that it's the only one, which is a bit unfortunate, but it is a good one nonetheless. Another note on that is that it gets super warm in there. It does hover right above the motor, so I wouldn't put your sandwich and water bottle in there. Keep that stuff in the back or in a backpack or whatever you're using. But it's sweet for maps. I keep a rope in there, tire repair kit, whatever. And it's borderline waterproof. It sits in there real nice. I usually leave it open just for some air in there, but it's a sweet little cubby. Keys down there, 12 volt, nice to have for an air compressor. Your gear selector, also best in the game in my opinion. There's no delay whatsoever. On a Sportsman, you'd be fucking jamming this thing to shift gears like that. And it's a maze selector, so you're certainly in the right gear when the right gear you want to be in. But it's got a true park. It's got an automatic parking brake involved in the park, so you're not dealing with an actual parking brake up here per se. which I would prefer. This is great. You also get 2 brakes. You get your rear brakes on the left, your front brakes on the right, which I also would prefer. I like being able to control which brakes are working rather than one left lever on the Polaris. Yeah, no doubt. Getting off the bike, talk about the front end for a hot sec. You got Ricochet aluminum guards up front. You got a Ricochet bash plate. You got Ricochet arm guards, which is great. Again, I need that protection. It's really nice to have. It's really, peace of mind really does prevail. And then again, you got those 2-inch tusk spacers in the front, which definitely widens the stance nicely. In here, you got a Yamaha Warn Pro Vantage 2500. I've got a steel cable on there right now. Ideally, I'd like to have a synthetic, but luckily I don't use this too often. Usually I'm just pulling out Polarises and Can-Ams out of mud pits, if you know what I'm saying. But it's a great winch nonetheless, with free spool and all that. And I believe this is a KFI winch stop. Always buy a winch stop. It's a $5 upgrade. It'll save you from tearing apart your cable, and it just looks a lot cleaner. And this hook will not bang around on you. It's just, you can't go back once you have one. You'll always be buying them. LED bulbs in the 2 bottom lights, which is nice. The headlight up here, which I believe is the high beam, has the stock yellow halogen bulb in there. No big deal. It is what it is. I just can't seem to find a bulb that'll fit in there. But yeah, that's the bike. Those are all the upgrades I've done to it. Again, I would recommend this machine to really a wide variety of customers. If someone's just looking for a big bore, big bore quote unquote bike to putt around on and do some yard work with and occasionally go for that ride, this is a dialed bike for that. But I also think, I ride with all Sportsman 850s, Sportsman 1000s, Outlander 850s, and this thing hangs on no problem. And I know I might get some shit for that, but if you know how to ride this bike, you can keep up no problem. And in fact, I would argue that this bike is so much quicker in the woods. Obviously, if you get to an open fire road, you'll be back in the dust. It's hard to argue that. But in terms of the lines of this bike, it's really a crotch rocket. Like, the center of gravity is freaking perfect. The cockpit is so dialed with that rock speed effects setup. Is that, in the woods, this thing is so quick. So quick. So, highly recommend. The MSRP is a lot lower than the competition. There's a boatload of accessories out there. And just Yamahas are drop dead reliable. And it's something I love to say because it's true. It's my 4th Yamaha. I've had a 350 Grizzly, 450 Grizzly, and this is my 2nd Kodiak 700. And I've never had a serious problem that put these things in the shop. Never, Again, the worst thing is really boots. You change your oil, you clean your air filter, you change your diffs, your fluids. I mean, you're good to go. It's pretty unbelievable. So let me know if you have any questions. I'm pretty avid in the bike. I do all the work myself. So if you have any questions on maintenance or really anything, drop it below or send me an email or something. I really want to say that this bike is just a 10 out of 10 and you guys should go out and buy one if you're considering it because you will not regret it. Happy trails, get out there, and I will talk to you soon. Later.